Hey everyone, it's Mrs. Baranyk, and this is my last video in my series before 1200. I'm closing out by talking about three civilizations of the Andean region during the classical era before the Inca took over. Remember, this video series was really just to give context to AP World History students. The truth is that all over the world there were amazing things happening before 1200, and I barely touched on any of it. I'm not even getting into the Mississippian culture or the Pueblo people of North America, and in Africa, which is huge and diverse, I only talked about the Nile Valley. So I don't want you to think that these videos are all there was to life before 1200. Get out there and explore. The world is big, and these videos are short. The three civilizations we'll be discussing are the Moche or Mochica, who flourished in northern Peru from 100 to 750 CE, the Wari Empire, which flourished from about 600 to 1000 CE in central and northern highlands of Peru, and just south of the Wari in present-day Peru, Chile, and Bolivia, another group was called the Tiwanaku, and they started building their civilization around 100 CE, with their golden age starting around 500 CE. Politically, the three civilizations had some variation. The Moche were probably decentralized, with each river valley or small group of towns having their own royalty and warriors. The Wari, on the other hand, had a strong central government and were probably highly militaristic, although they let local leaders in conquered territories keep control of their area if they joined the Wari and obeyed them. The government required mita labor, where citizens work for the state to improve the empire as a form of tribute. This was later adopted by the Inca. The mita labor was probably used for public projects that needed construction. For example, mita labor may have built a network of roads linking the empire from the north to the south that was later expanded by the Inca. The Tiwanaku were kind of a blend between the two. They seem to have been highly bureaucratic, which indicates centralization, but they were also highly decentralized, with independent city-states as far as 200 miles from the capital. The government had to be strong, though, as they controlled the economy, redistributing food and necessary resources to the people who did their part to create what society needed. Now, all three were agricultural societies and built impressive irrigation networks and aqueducts to bring fresh water from the mountain streams to the fields and the people. The Tiwanaku also developed large-scale agriculture in marshy lands around a large freshwater lake by using raised fields and terraced farming. They also raised fish in their irrigation canals and ponds, and the waste products of the fish helped to fertilize their crops. Genius! All three groups grew similar crops too. Maize, or corn as we call it, was the staple crop for all three, but they also grew beans, squash, avocados, guava, chili peppers, peanuts. In the highlands, they grew potatoes and quinoa. All three civilizations raised llamas and alpacas for their wool and meat and as pack animals to move goods for trade. They also hunted and fished. As an interesting side note, llamas and alpacas, which were incredibly important in the Americas, are related to camels. And camels were also incredibly important in Asian and African societies for much of history. So around the world, camelids were essential to early civilizations. Yay for camelids! The Moche, Wari, and Tiwanaku all had urban centers. Among the Moche, there's evidence of city planning. Their total population was probably about 25,000 people. The Tiwanaku and Wari had the largest urban centers in South America, with between 30,000 and 70,000 inhabitants in their capital cities alone. While there were vast differences in their monumental architecture, there were also some similarities. The Moche and Tiwanaku both built large ceremonial spaces. The Moche built enormous huacas, which were stepped pyramids made of adobe bricks with multiple levels, access ramps, and slanted roofs. The biggest is the Huaca del Sol, made from 140 million bricks. The Tiwanaku had large open ceremonial spaces with sunken courtyards that were paved and had walls created with large finely cut stones that fit perfectly together. Wari architecture was a little different and included large buildings with many small rooms, but there was no evidence of city planning, and there were few buildings used solely for public ceremonies like temples. All three cultures are certainly known for their beautiful craftsmanship. Painted ceramic pots included life-size portraits of individuals and 3D representations of people and animals. The Wari also painted intricate geometric designs. Similarly, all three are known for their beautiful textiles woven in geometric patterns made from the wool of camelids and cotton. One of the ways we know a lot about these three cultures is from the amazing tombs discovered by archaeologists. The fact that some have been found untouched is pretty awesome, since the Spanish conquistadors looted them for their wealth. These tombs showed the incredible metal workings of the civilizations. The tomb of the Moche Lord of Sipan was filled with valuables made of gold, silver, and copper. There was a headdress, a face mask, a chest plate that was gold with the head of a man and the body of an octopus, necklaces of silver and gold with beads shaped like peanuts, nose rings, etc. It was an absolute treasure and spoke loudly about the lives of elites and the skill of Moche craftsmen. Wari royal tombs were similar, with gold weaving tools, gold earrings, bronze axes, jewelry, and silver bowls. The tombs also tell us about society. For example, Moche society was very hierarchical with powerful elites who seem to have lived better than average people. We know this because the skeletons of elites are often 8 to 12 inches taller than average Moche adult males, so they probably had superior nutrition. The tombs have also revealed that Moche and Wari women may have held political power and religious power, as some were buried with gold and weaponry. In one Wari tomb, 60 people were buried in rows, seated, probably servants, and 3 royal women were found in side chambers who seemed to have been incredibly rich and powerful. In another Wari burial site, 200 people were found and gave evidence of people being servants, middle class, and elites. The tombs also tell us a lot about the religion of these groups. Tombs from all 3 civilizations show evidence that royal bodies were repeatedly removed and replaced, probably for some kind of ritual which may indicate ancestor worship. All 3 civilizations seem to have used blood and possibly human and animal sacrifice as part of their religious practices. The Moche were the first group to go into decline in the late 6th century. It seems to have been linked to environmental changes like a huge earthquake or a super El Nino that led to decades of flood followed by decades of drought. In some parts of their territory, they continued beyond the middle of the 7th century. Similarly, the Wari decline started around the 9th century and may have been brought on by drought. By the 11th century, the urban populations had shrunk considerably. Interestingly, buildings in the capital and other government centers had doorways purposely blocked up like maybe they were planning to return. The decline of the Tiwanaku started in the 8th century. It's clear that whatever united their far-flung empire started to fall apart. By the 11th century, ceramics were no longer being produced and the capital was abandoned. By the 12th century, the raised fields were no longer being farmed. Unlike the Moche and the Wari, this all seems to have been due to social unrest. Archaeologists can see this because important structures were purposely destroyed and food storage jars were smashed. This is the last video of the Civilizations Before 1200 video series that I created for AP World History, and it was my pleasure to create them for you. I hope that they help to give you a sense of what existed in each region before you jump into 1200, and to see how these earlier civilizations inspired what's to come. Good luck this year and have a great school year.